Hello, and welcome to the Side of the Desk podcast for our 12th and therefore 1-year anniversary episode. Each month I chat with influential industry leaders to explore their journey to success and, more importantly, the role recruitment played throughout their journey. We are currently streaming live across LinkedIn and YouTube for you to watch or listen instantly. Or if you can't join us live today, just head to the website and you can view this and all the other episodes. Now, joining me today is Gaby Mendes, who is the founder of TwentiesFest and Talk Twenties, an award-winning media and events platform that helps young people navigate the rollercoaster years of their adult life. Her podcast has received amazing success with over 120,000 listeners. Can that be right? I'm going to ask how you got 120,000 listeners. And was even a finalist in the British Podcast Award just 1 year after its launch. So, Gaby, welcome to Side of the Desk. Is there anything I've missed there? Because that's pretty impressive already.
I mean, it's a crazy intro, but yes, thank you so much. I love everything, the setup, the video. So nice. Yeah, really cool.
Yeah, everybody loves the VT more than this bit, actually. So I'm sure Naomi will share it with you. She's fantastic at that. Now, look, before we get started, everyone, we are live, which means you, our lovely audience, if you want to share your comments and thoughts in the comment box, if you want to just introduce yourself, let us know where you are in the world. Hopefully we'll get to them. If not, we will make sure we answer as soon as possible. So let's get started with the episode. So, Gaby, this is a recruitment podcast for the events industry. So we have to start the question, what does recruitment mean to you? And also, what's your own personal experience with recruitment been like, either yourself or as an employer?
Yeah, I've sat on all sides of the spectrum. I've obviously been recruited into jobs. I've worked in recruitment as a recruitment consultant, as an intern when I was in university, actually. And then now I'm an employer. So I've been on all sides, actually, and I'm only 28. So yeah, I would say that actually, yeah, recruitment is a really interesting industry, and I love it. I've got to see it from all angles. So yeah, I didn't realize, I don't know, like probably you when you were growing up as well, like that recruitment and getting people into jobs was a job, really. So when I got into university, I was looking for internships in the summer, and there was a really cool company that was kind of taking interns all over the UK called Temps Recruitment. And I trained up as a recruitment consultant in my summer and basically just helped with, speccing CVs, initial conversations of, phone interviews and things like that, and putting people into various different jobs, very industrial, kind of, looking for like people who can drive a forklift and stuff like that in the beginning. And I guess that was kind of my first initial understanding to like, wow, there's such an art to recruitment, like, putting people in the right jobs. Yes, there is. And also like culture fit as well. Like, I mean, it was industrial, so like there's less of a culture fit because it's kind of people who are in that industry, they have, they're pulling things off pallets and stuff like that. But there's culture in everything, really. So that was my intro into recruitment. And then, and then now obviously I have a small team that I've recruited myself through weird and wonderful ways. And yeah, that's kind of my background in it.
Do you think your recruitment agency experience has sort of influenced you as a job seeker and an employer as well? And in what way?
Yeah, 100%. You just get to see like a different side to and appreciate like how much like work and effort goes into that. So, that kind of when you're looking at applications, what someone has literally just sent off and not taken, any thought of, and what a real standout application can actually look like, and how to identify candidates who are really keen and therefore would probably be a right fit for the organization. And I think that stood me in good stead applying for jobs when, in my early 20s, and then also understanding who are the right people. I think I've made some quite good decisions, like recruitment wise, in terms of, who I've hired and stuff like that. So yeah, like I do agree. Like I think it's really stood me in good stead.
Yeah, when we were doing with Naomi, who's a producer before, I was like, sorry, she's 28. Like, I'm 47. I was like, she's done more than I've done in like half the time. Like, what's going on?
No, yeah, I'd lived about 1,000 lives.
I mean, when I lived in, where was it? Bristol. And Temps I used to work for an agency called Meridian, who were like a big competitor. Yeah. And I ran a construction, industrial, commercial. And we always used to joke, and it sounds terrible, but you're right, sort of industrial temps are very day by day, very transient, I want tomorrow. And we always used to joke how many people's nans used to die. Oh no!
Oh my god! Yeah. Sorry, I can't come in today. My nan's died. Yeah.
Your nan died last week, and the other thing was flat tires. So, like, how many flat tires? I can't go into work. And we used to joke. We'd say, "Well, actually, we've got a garage, actually. So where are you? And we'll send the tow truck." And they were like, "Oh no, I can't hear you." It's like, just tell the truth. Just tell the truth. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I know. Lots of people who can't bother to turn up for work. And actually, like, what's super interesting is my brother. So the whole story behind recruitment for me is that I did an internship with Per Temps. I worked with them for one summer, and then the following summer I came back just for some, it was only supposed to be one summer, but I enjoyed it. And I went back, and that was my last summer before leaving university and graduating. And they were like, Gabs, we want to give you a full-time job. Do you want to work in recruitment? You're good at this. Like, would you want to have a full-time job when you graduate? And I was like, actually, this is Gloucestershire, it's where I'm from. I was like, actually, I'm actually going to move to Liverpool to live with my boyfriend at the time, now my fiance. I was like, I'm actually going to move to the other side of the country, and there isn't a Per Temps branch there. So unfortunately, thank you very much, but I can't accept your offer. However, my brother, who was training at the time, playing for Cheltenham Town Football Club, he had just been let go. He's just got to 18, and there were lots of stuff going on in Cheltenham Town at that moment in time, but just been let go from professional football. And was like, he didn't know what he was going to do next. So I was like, why don't you give recruitment a go? And he is the biggest success story that pretty much Per Temps has ever had. He was like in their top kind of recruiters. He used to smash all their targets, and he did so well for them. He ended up staying there for about 3 or 4 years. Then he moved in-house to a recruitment organization, then to another startup company. And now he runs his own recruitment firm himself. Awesome. And he's 26.
Jesus Christ.
So he is probably the biggest success story that I know in recruitment. He took what I did in recruitment and then literally to another level. And now, he's super successful. He manages the recruitment for like startups in the e-commerce space, and he's smashing it. So hyper growth recruitment.
I hope you got a placement fee for putting your brother in Per Temps, because there's an industry. Have you heard of rec to rec? Have you heard that industry?
No, I don't think so.
There's a whole recruitment industry, and I kid you not, right? And it's a recruitment company placing recruiters into recruitment companies, and it's called rec to rec, and that's what they do. So Per Temps will use a rec to rec, and it's like, hang on, you need a recruiter to find a recruiter to work for a recruitment company. I've never really understood. I
did not get the fee, but I'm just happy to see my brother doing well. So it's fine.
Get in touch with him. Get a fee. Anyway, well, let's talking about sort of the sort of early part of it. Although you're 28, this sounds crazy. The early part of your career, you started out as a teacher as well. Naomi mentioned, and you left education, moved into events management, and one of the things I'm really interested, I do a lot of work with universities about that talent sort of pipeline. How did that sort of move go? Like, were you doing event management, or how did event management come onto your radar to then move into it?
Yeah, so the degree that I was doing at university was education studies. So it was all about, it wasn't really about how to be a teacher. It was more like the psychology, sociology, history of how we learn as humans, culture, society, communities, all of that kind of thing. Fascinating topic. But in the end, I qualified with like a BA in education, and I kept saying, I don't think teaching is for me. I don't think teaching is for me, which is why I went away and did things like the internship in something else to kind of figure out, what is it that I want to do? I'm loving the content of my course, but everyone thinks I want to be a teacher. And I'll admit, like, I wanted to move to the Northwest, to live with my fiance, and I panicked when I graduated. I was like, there wasn't a recruitment company that I felt like I wanted to move into, like similar to Per Temps, and I was just like, do you know what, like, I'll try teaching, because I didn't know what my next step was. I'll give it a go and see how it goes. And so I did my teacher training year and then my newly qualified teacher year. So technically I'm a qualified teacher. No one can ever take that away from me. And I taught French in a secondary school. My form of students were sixth form students. I was 21. They were 17 and 18 at the time. Yeah. There was literally a university degree between us. Yeah, it was so hard. Yeah. but that kind of like sowed the seed for like what I then went on to do. So it's kind of a good thing in a way, that it did happen, although it was kind of really hard at the time. So yeah, I did like 2 years in teaching, and I decided after 2 years, as 23 at the time, that teaching wasn't it really what I tried it really wasn't what I wanted to do, and I think I should have gone with my gut in the first place. But great experience, learned so much in the process, again, that just has fed into my future career, and realized that I have quite a business head on my shoulders, and you don't use any of those business skills in teaching. Not one of them is used at all. You're very much part of a system, and it's you can't, creativity is very much squished. So I wanted to move.
Budget, though. You learn about budgeting as a teacher.
Well, you don't really. You just get told that you can't afford that, so do it for as cheap as you can. Like, that's literally, you don't even get to see the budgets, especially if you're like just starting out. Like, you just get told there's no money for that. And then so when I left, the hard thing about teaching is you have to give like so much notice to leave, because obviously they need to recruit him for like the following year. So I had to say in Easter that I was going to leave in the summer, and no one wants, and I would have been paid actually until the end of the August holidays, but no one wants to hire anyone that's in a job like for a September start date, or for like if it had worked over the summer or whatever. No one wants to hire then. So probably the worst like experience was having to go into like the like staff room every day and be like, have you found a job yet? You got a job? Where are you going to? Have you got a job yet? And I was like, no one is recruiting for this. And it was a huge gamble to basically be like, I don't have anything lined up, but I just know I don't want to do this. So I left, and then in September time, I found a job working for a company called STEM Women. I only worked there for about 3 months as a temporary role, and we did kind of pop-up events all over the UK that connected university students with STEM graduate employers, specifically for women. So obviously they want to get more women into STEM jobs, and that's usually like the likes of like KPMG, Boeing, all those kind of companies. They have a budget to try and recruit more women into the industry, and this was all about inspiring those students. So really cool concepts. And it was whilst I was in that job that I came up with the idea of like, wouldn't it be really cool if we had like an event for young people that helps them figure out adult life? So they've either graduated from university or they've done an apprenticeship or whatever it is, and they want to figure out their next steps. Wouldn't it be really cool if we had an event that was specifically targeted towards them? And that was where the seed was sown. So that was probably, I was like 23 at the time. Yeah. And then after that job, I went into.
I'm just trying to remember like what I was doing at 23. It was not thinking about.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, this is a long story. But then I went and worked into the events industry. So this was my first kind of. So that was like a mini pop-up events, and then I got my experience in business trade shows, exhibitions, and awards. So I started working for a company that ran like trade shows out of the NEC. So they're usually they were all business to business, medical technology, additive manufacturing, plastics manufacturing, stuff that, oh my God, so boring to me. So the actual content, honestly, send me to sleep. But the actual building of an event, I was like, this is amazing. I'm managing budgets, and I was operations manager. So I got to, go on site and watch basically a city be built overnight in this great big hall and then tear down 3 days later. It was amazing. Talking about like 8,000, 10,000 attendees at times. And then the awards, we used to have award ceremonies that would sit alongside that. So I got like 2 years of experience doing that before the pandemic hit. And in the back of my head, I was still thinking, I want to do this event for young people. But I got the itch to do it in January 2020, and we all know what happened by March 2020. So I couldn't do the event anymore, and that's where I pivoted, and I launched the Talk Twenties podcast, genuinely because I thought I'd do 10 episodes and then be able to launch a mini event. I was like, let's just get people talking, and it just did really well. Like, we started getting pitches in from like different people's agents and celebrities and experts and stuff like that, to be like, we'd love people to come on to talk about how they're navigating their 20s, like young stars and stuff like that. And it just kind of went from there, and to the point where the podcast did better. And I think I went into podcasting at the right time. But the idea of the event didn't go away. So we also did TwentiesFest in October this year. So that is my backstory that involves recruitment and lots of different jobs. But yeah.
I mean, wow, Jesus. The thing that really stands out to me is, I talk about a different time, but you've made some really big, huge life-changing decisions. You know, moving to Liverpool from Gloucester, leaving a teaching job with no other job, setting up you know, I suppose back then it was a bit more different, was it? People weren't really like, I don't really want to move. You know, London was a big market for the industry. You know, people were having to work locally. Now that's changed a bit, but I know many young people still sort of have that like fear of just doing it. Like, what do you think gave you that sort of drive? What made you just go, yeah, obviously apart from your love for your now fiance, obviously, but what was it that was like, do you know what, I'm just going to do this, rather than maybe my sort of age people, like we procrastinate. You know, procrastination is a killer. But what do you think gave you that, like, no, I'm just going to do this, I'm going to go ahead and do this?
Yeah, I think I have quite a strong gut instinct, and it frustrates me when my gut instinct isn't strong. So like now that we've done the festival and like the podcast and everything, I'm definitely like itching now, like where do we go next? And like it frustrates me, but once I know what direction I want to go in, I kind of just go at it hell for leather. I'm like, right, I've made this decision now, I'm gonna go for it and I'm gonna give it my best. And I think for me, like I try and just I guess it's like delusional confidence at this point. You're just like, you just gotta go for it, a little bit delulu. And yeah, I just kind of feel like if I don't give it my all, and then I'll just never know. I think my brain always tells me like, what if you just went for it? Like, what's the worst that can happen? And I think at the same time, like I say all of this and it sounds really great, but I've had a ton of failure within that. Like a ton of things that I've gone, that didn't work, or that didn't work quite there. Or, you know, you could say like actually leaving teaching and technically leaving events, like are failures within themselves, because I didn't then go on and do, you know, get to the highest points of, I'm not a head teacher. I'm not like, you know, I didn't stay for too long in events. So, you know, everyone can look at things in different ways, but yeah, I guess I just, yeah, I'm always looking for the next thing.
It's such a that phrase, what's the worst that can happen? I remember when I was at Bank Sadler, and I used to tell people that I left, but I was sacked basically. I wasn't, but I was like the head of global development, had a team of 22. So you'd imagine like, you know, big senior, you know, 6-figure salary. Whoa, look at me. And it was just awful. I was in the wrong job, wrong company, and I was wrong for them. And I remember going for an interview after I left and being in a car afterwards with my wife, and I'd been offered this MD job as a recruiter. And I remember being like, I don't want to do this. And my wife said a phrase that I'll never forget. And it's that it turns that on its head. And she says, well, I said, I really want to set up on my own. I want to be a recruiter. And she said, well, what's the best that can happen? And I remember hearing that, like, where is the best? Rather than what's the worst?
Yeah.
Like, where is the best that can happen? You know, and it was, and by the way, I think we've got the social tile. No. Gaby talks delusional confidence.
Yeah.
That's going to be the social style. I love that. I think that's fantastic. Let's talk about let's just go on the podcast. Obviously, I want to get to 20s Fest and hear a lot about that. But in the intro, it said about you've got 120,000 listeners. That's incredible. That's amazing traction. Why do you think it's been so successful? And also, like, where do you think it's going to go next? What's next for you?
I think a couple of things. I think we got into podcasting at the right time. Everyone was kind of getting into it in the pandemic, but we also invested in like video production quite early on. So we were an independent podcast. We stepped into producing our video content, recording in a studio quite early on. Now it's quite normal. Like a lot of podcasts will start with video and they'll be on YouTube and they'll have clips and stuff like that. But that was kind of where we really invested early on. And then we I think it's the guests as well, the reach that we have. So, you know, we have a lot of guests that will pitch in to come on the podcast. It's kind of like 50-50 actually, people that we reach out to and people that reach out to us to kind of come on. And yeah, we've been able to grow and reach lots of different people. And I think that's why our listenership is so big, because we've got so many different guests coming in from all different walks of life to talk about their 20s. So people tend to dive in for the people that they like or want to hear their stories, and dive out for the people that they maybe don't.
I mean, it's incredible. I mean, you know, I don't do this like you say. It's for me, it's very much, I just love talking to people in the industry. I'm very lucky I get to talk to some amazing people in my job, let alone that. And do you think, is that something you're going to carry on? Like, where's that go? Because obviously that's probably quite a lot of your time. You know, that's a lot of effort to do that. And with the festival, which we'll get onto next, you know, what is the plan for that, you know?
Yeah, I honestly, if I'm being completely honest, is that I'm still figuring it out. Like I'm in yeah, I am. Like I am in a space now where it's like, okay, we've just pulled off, a successful festival, and there's so many places that it can go from here. I really enjoy the podcasting world and the kind of the creation of the production behind it and everything. There's a few things that we've got in the pipeline and in the plans. A lot of it is reliant on future conversations that we're having over the next like few weeks and months and stuff. But yeah, like I don't think I love working for myself. I love running a company. I love being an entrepreneur. So I think I will always kind of want to be in that space or want to be entrepreneurial. And I think we'll just continue growing from here. But you might see us dive into other spaces now. We're talking about quite big plans, and if they come off, great. If they don't, well, my dad always said, I always say, like, shoot for the moon and you'll land amongst the stars. But my dad always tells me that actually the stars are further than the moon, so that doesn't really work. So he's like a scientist, like a very scientist, yeah. But yeah, like I just think, like, yeah, aim for as high as you can go and you'll land somewhere good.
Right, let's talk about TwentiesFest. So I think it sounds like TwentiesFest was the idea before then the pandemic, but I get the idea of it. For those that don't obviously know about TwentiesFest or know some of the drama that you had with the bloody, you know, just tell us about that sort of journey, leading up to it, because you recruited some people. So just be interesting to hear your thoughts about how you sort of decide, because, you know, starting something from new, that recruitment's important all the time, but it's vital that that sort of, you know, that trust, that camaraderie, that passion for it. Just talk us through what that experience was like, recruiting those people, you know, interviewing, getting the right team in place. Then obviously tell us, you know, the drama that happened, and then tell us, you know, about the results of it and the success.
Yes. So right now we're a full-time team of 3, and during TwentiesFest, so I've had George has been in my team for over a year now. She's our creative producer of Talk Twenties, and she does all like the marketing and the social side behind the digital side of the brand. And then for TwentiesFest, she did like billboards and posters and all those kinds of things, like for the event. But when it was getting closer to the event, so I applied for government funding to launch TwentiesFest. I thought, this is amazing, you know. If we can get government support behind an event like this, it could help so many young people, you know, figure out what they want to do with their lives and feel more confident in themselves. We didn't get the government funding. We got amazing feedback though. So it was the most frustrating thing to reel it back, because it was like, there was literally like no constructive feedback that we could take away to be like why we didn't get it. So that was back in, I think,
like recruitment as well, doesn't it? You didn't get the job. Any feedback? No. Thanks.
Yeah. Exactly. So that was kind of back in April, May time that we found out that we hadn't got it. And it was one of those things where I think I was really frustrated, obviously. And I took myself to the local pool. And when I need to think, I need to be away from my phone. I need to just be like thinking, either I'll run or I'll go for a swim or something like that. And I was just sat there and I was thinking, what if I just said I was just going to do it? Like, I'm just going to do it, you know, we'll give it a go, and like, we'll go against the odds. We'll have an underdog story. What if I just go for it? And so the next day I posted a video and I was like, we didn't get the funding, guys. I'm going to be completely transparent with you. We didn't get the funding, but we're going to go for it anyway, because I really feel like something like this should exist in the world. And if we don't go for it, it's never going to exist. So I kind of put that out there. And at the same time, a month or so earlier, let's take it back to the beginning of the year. We did like a workshop to help people set their goals for 2023. And different members of our community joined. And actually a girl called Olivia joined, who had never listened to the podcast before, was just actually interested in setting her goals for 2023. And she came and she kind of got hooked like onto the Talk 20s brand, and she was like, I love this. And she started listening from that point onwards. She was super engaged. And then I bumped into her at another event. She like cornered me in the toilets. And she was
I don't recommend that for other networking, by the way.
She's like, are you Gaby? And I was like, yeah, hi. And she was like, oh my God, I came to your workshop at the beginning of the year. I loved it. I like love what you're doing with Talk 20s. And at the time I was like, well, I've applied for funding for this event, like, you know, and I knew she was an events graduate. I've applied for funding this event. I was like, if we get it, like, I was like, you know, it'd be great to kind of, she was in a final year, just about to graduate. And I was like, I'll let you know if we get it. And so she started kind of just, we plotting ideas together. She did a bit of volunteering, you know, she's in her final, you know, few months of her course. She couldn't do loads with us. And yeah, and then obviously we found out we didn't get the funding. And we started talking about, okay, well, how are we going to do this event? And I was like, Olivia, like, I'll just take you on full time for 3 months, and I need help with this. Like, I need someone in the business that I can kind of, I know me and Georgia and I can't do it alone. So she obviously had that event experience. So I brought her in on a 3-month contract, just to take us up to 20s Fest. That was, I think, from like the 1st of July all the way through to the 1st of October. So we had 90 days basically to pull off a festival.
Jeez.
We did it. Like, she was amazing. She literally graduated from university, started with us on the 1st of July. We worked crazy over the summer, and we pulled it off. And she's still with us now. Obviously, she stayed on after the 3 months. But yeah, so yeah, that's kind of how we grew the team. She called me in the toilets, and yeah, no CV or anything, but I knew she was the right person for the job, because it's that go-getter attitude, you know.
I like it. One of the things I really, you mentioned delusional confidence earlier. I don't think it is confidence, because and you get this, and we'll come on to this later. You know, confidence, especially in younger people get a bit, especially people my age, get a bit grumpy, because we, you know, like, oh, I was never like, and they call it arrogance. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with a nice dose of confidence. It's not delusional, but that confidence in a product is what's made you successful. And I think the best thing I saw, I think it's where you first really came onto my radar, like, a lot, and you use that word community. And I remember seeing when you said about, I think it was the train strikes in, you know, and suddenly you were like, and I could almost see through the screen, like, she's having like a meltdown here, because I can only imagine what that was like. But the people that just came, I mean, I people were saying, like, well, I'm driving from London, I'll give people a lift. And I was like, what the hell? Like, that was amazing.
Driving from London to Liverpool, like, I don't know. I don't think I've even processed how amazing that was. Like, you know, when you get hit with train strikes on your first ever event, you didn't get the funding, you've worked for crazy to try and pull it off. You're pulling in so many favors from left, right, and center in order to make it happen. Like, it kind of, I was just like, well, I have to give it my all. I have to just kind of say, like, I think the problem is, especially with the events industry as well, even if you get like, even if you get insurance, it doesn't cover you for something like train strikes, because if you want to, they'll say to you, look, we'll help you move your event, but you piss off every single one of your attendees who've already booked trains or travel or made arrangements or can't make the new date. So they might help you be able to do that, but actually, if you're going to go ahead with it and you miss out financially because you're sticking to your date and stuff like that, there's literally no help. So you take on 100% of the risk if you're an event organizer. That's what I've learned from this experience. And it's tough, but like, I still felt like there was value in just pushing through and going ahead. Like, you can keep kicking the can down the road and everything, but actually just going, nope, we're going to be there and we're going to have an amazing day. We've got amazing sessions, speakers, DJs, brands coming along. We are going to go for it. Felt like the right approach, because we don't give up lightly. Very resilient. I mean,
it's amazing. I loved it. And we're going to talk about the results in a minute. Right, what we're going to do now is just have a little break and do our recruitment hot seat. So what I'm going to do, we're going to have a little short VT. And when I mean short, it is really short, okay? And then we're going to do the thing. I'm going to say some words to you, word association. I'm going to give you some words. And all I want to know from you is, like, what's the first thing that pop into your head? Now, it doesn't have to be a one-word thing, but also it's not an interview answer, if you see what I mean. It's just, what do you think of when I say these words, okay? So we're going to do the VT, and then we'll come back, and then we'll carry on chatting.
Cool.
I told you it was short, didn't I? Right, okay, so here we go. There's only 6 of these. You ready? First thing, recruitment.
Jobs. I don't know. Right. Yeah, jobs.
That's right. Number 2, interview.
First impression.
Oh, I like that. Next one is senior professional.
I don't want to say what I thought was my answer.
Say what you feel, because you know that
senior. I was going to say Jobsworth.
Fair
Just because
enough.
that senior title, just
That's
people
ridiculous.
love saying like I'm senior, like yeah.
No, I love it. I love it. Next one, my favourite. Don't feel that you have to say something nice. Recruiter.
I have a respect for recruiters, and I don't think many people will say that, but because obviously I've been in the industry, I understand what they do, and I think a lot of people like don't understand the power of what a recruiter can do. So respect.
All the other stuff I'm going to ignore and just put that on the tile. Okay, last couple. Job descriptions.
I think they need to be as like they need to understand like the culture of the company, but sometimes they don't. Like they'll promise you the world and then it doesn't necessarily pay off.
The last one, event professionals.
They have to be good at everything. Like such all-rounders. You literally have to be good at every single thing. You need to be good at with people, you need to be good with budgets, you need to be good with marketing. You basically have to be an all-rounder to be in events, I think.
Perfect. Thank you. I enjoyed that. That was a good one. I like the senior one. It's interesting because I completely hear you, because look, I speak with, half my life is speaking to agents. I work in events and brand experience. So half my life is spent speaking to agency owners, and the other half senior stakeholders. Now I call senior, because of my roles, I call that people on £60,000 and above, because I think you can be a 28-year-old and be a senior professional. Like, I'm a real big fan of what you do rather than how long you've been doing it,
Yeah.
And let's be honest, there is that divide. And I see this at the moment in my job. And, I work with universities, but also I'm doing some stuff at the moment on an event and some work for 50 over 50s, because there's a disconnect, and there is that like, oh, these young people had it so easy. We never had it in my day. And then there's this sort of like, well, you're old and past it, with the next generation move over grandpa. And I think there's a bit in the middle, which is like, we're losing people from our industry at both ends of the spectrum. Why are we doing this to each other? Let's just like actually work together and recognize that everybody's got their skills. Like that's a dream of mine. And I think it's like with your Talk Twenties, you speak mainly, I assume, with the audience there, with young adults, and they're at various stages of their life, their career. I mean, what are you noticing? What do you sort of hear people are saying to you about the industry specifically?
About the event industry, or just about things in general? I wouldn't say that anyone that's come on the podcast is specifically in the events industry. We kind of get people from all different kind of backgrounds.
What are people saying?
Yeah, I think definitely in terms of like recruitment and stuff like that, like a lot of it is, I don't know if you see a lot of it on LinkedIn nowadays, but it's often like you have to build like a personal brand. Like it doesn't matter what company you work for, like the personal brand is like big and stuff like that in order to kind of get in. And I actually don't. Like, I think sometimes it's a lot of aggro to build a personal brand. It has to be, I think it needs to be intentional, not just like, oh, I'm promoting myself for promoting myself's sake. So I kind of like to and fro between that. And I think some employers love it and some employers don't love it at all. They just rather you just came to work and did your job and that was it. So, so I think it's a really interesting landscape that's coming up in terms of, lots of young people. I think one of the things is obviously a lot of us missed out on core time in the office or experiences because of COVID. And so, you can still learn so much through a Zoom screen and through working from home. But I think it's kind of that balance of like what actually does a good work-life balance look like, because when you've worked from home in your bedroom, where is the split between I'm working right now and I'm not? I think that's the biggest problem I'm probably seeing in the next generation, is that you're working so much that it's so hard to switch off, because our work life and our home lives have just become so blended because of COVID, which I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I know my mum and dad, like they definitely have been able to separate work from home life probably easier than I and my kind of peers have. So I would probably say that's the biggest one, because I personally feel like I'm switched on 24/7. And I know I have that to the extreme because I'm a business owner. And so not everyone will be the same, but I definitely think that switch off is hard if you're in that younger generation, because we're glued to our phones as well. Some of us have our work emails on our phones, like
that. Do you know what? It's so funny to hear you say that, because let's be honest, the older generation, there is this sort of opinion of younger people don't want to come in office. They all want to sit at home having their pumpkin lattes, rah, rah, rah. And then there's an opinion of the older generation of you just want everyone 5 days a week in the office and you don't know. But the points I'm always talking to people, I see it settling down into a sort of 3 in the office, 2 at home, that sort of set pattern. And you're absolutely right. Like, I learned all of my stuff from asking questions and being in meetings and walking past desks. But also, I don't see the point of traveling 2 hours to a job and then 2 hours back. I think we have to recognize, and I don't know if you've seen, but we did an annual event salary survey recently. It was sponsored by Cvent. I have to say that every time I say it. And the results from that were really interesting. 4-day week is what people are asking for. 55% of the industry saying, I'd like a 4-day week. And I love that. But at the moment, we're trying to do 5 days in 4 days, which, like you said, is suddenly you're working 12, 13 hours a day. So it's great to hear I feel like that's such an old man, the younger generation, because I struggle to switch off and other people struggle to switch off. And I think we all think that being at home, we have to learn to switch off. So it's great hearing that. And it's, something that I think more people, especially in the events and brand experience industry, it's not a badge of honor to work 60 hours a week. That's not something we should be going, come here. And like when I joined, it was things like, oh, we drink all the time, it's partying. Yeah. And it's like, no, I don't find that of interest, I'm afraid. Sorry.
Yeah, I definitely think there's definitely that in the events industry as well. Like from what I see as well, it's really tough if you're outside of London, because there's so much going on in London. But actually, like, a lot of people moved out of London for COVID and haven't moved back. So like, it means like every time there's something big's going on in the industry, we always have to trek it into London from wherever we are in the UK. I'd really like to see, and I think this is where, I didn't want to say too much about our future plans and stuff like that, but I'd really like to create a bit more of a hub of opportunity for creative careers and of careers in media and events in the North. Like long term, that I would love that to be like something that I would want to do, because there is so much talent here in the North. Like my 2 hires, like one of them's from Liverpool, one of them's from Wigan. Like they were not going to move to London, but they are so talented at what they do. They are so brilliant at what they do that like companies are missing out. Companies are missing out by not having offices or talent that aren't based in London, basically.
Yeah, I mean, but as an aside note, just before I ask the next question, remind me offline, I can introduce you to some agency owners in Liverpool, Leeds and Manchester who would love to be part of something like that, because I've been placing people. The last year I've placed more people outside of London than I have in the 8 years I've run the business. And it's fantastic, and the talent is unbelievable. And talking of that divide, I saw you did a post, I think, I can't remember where I saw it, LinkedIn or something like that, but you said something about the northern accents. You said something about that potential discrimination your team would receive. Like, interested to hear your thoughts, because I mentioned earlier, I lived in Bristol for 13 years. You said about Gloucester, the Bristol accent, people used to, you could be the CEO of bloody Booper, and if you had a Bristol accent, people thought you were dumb. What have you come across?
Yeah, it's the assumption that like the certain types of like accents means that people are thick. Like, it's actually ridiculous. Like, and I see it because I have quite a neutral accent, so I'm very much a chameleon. Like, if you talk to me and you're like Cockney, I will probably talk to you back in a similar way. Like, when I'm around like people with really thick Scouse accent, I pick up certain words, but ultimately that means that my accent ends up so neutral. But my team have really strong accents, and I see sometimes the way they're spoken to by people that we work with, clients, and how they're not taken as seriously as perhaps I am. And it frustrates me so much, because obviously I know their talent, I know their capabilities, and to see other people underestimate them, in a way, I'm kind of like, your loss is my gain. But at the same time, it's so frustrating, because you can see so much opportunity for them, and that they're just not kind of getting it because of something as simple as that. And there's been some very explicit times where I've had to kind of step in and be like,
It's so funny. I don't know if it's reverse for me, but you know, like Clemmy that does CHS. Every time I speak, I can't remember Clemmy's surname now, but every time I speak to her, she's got the most northern accent, and it just makes me. She's so happy. It's like whenever I hear her, I could be having a really bad day, and I'm like, oh, it's just lovely. It's not.
Yeah, it's great.
I get called. I've got a Mockney accent because I live in Brighton now, and I lived in London for 8 years. And I've got this like Mockney thing every now and again, and people are like, "Where are you from?"
Yeah, I've never heard that before. A Mockney, so you literally, that's cool.
Like fake Cockney, you know, mock Cockney.
Oh, fake Cockney. I thought you just like mock other people's accents whenever they speak, like me.
No, like piss. No, like a mock accent, Mockney.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Let's just last few things. Oh my God, we're nearly at the end. Bloody hell. Right. I can imagine there are so many things you're proud of in your career, and I think this has been like inspiring personally. British Podcast Awards, I remember that from earlier. You've done so much, so young, if you don't mind me saying so. I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that in a real positive way. If you could pick just one thing that you would say career-wise, you know, this is the thing I'm most proud of today, because you've got a long career ahead of you. You know, what would it be today? What's the one thing you're most proud of?
Thank you. I would probably, I don't know. I would probably say TwentiesFest, because I think that was such a challenging experience. We had to overcome so much, and to actually be there on the day. Like, I actually don't remember much of the day because I was just so like, there's so much. I was running off like 0 hours sleep. Like I think I hugged about 400 people that day. Like, it was crazy. Like, because so many people that I'd knew and seen online and this and that. I was like, hello. I think that has to be the career highlight for me so far, and just something that was, you know, amazing, and I think that has to be it. But yeah, amazing. Probably TwentiesFest.
And listen, look, genuinely, and I'll say it live, if you think that an old man can add value to your 20s, I don't know if there's an age limit or anything. If there's anything, you know, you'd like me to come along and help out, I'm more than happy. I'd love to come and help you with that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
So, last question. We've run through your career. I genuinely, like, it is genuinely inspirational. I'm going to go and tell my 9-year-old he needs to get his arse into gear and start being an entrepreneur.
Oh no, I think. Do you know what? I hate that, like, that pressure to kind of achieve whatever. Like, what might sound like a lot is honestly just me talking about the best bits. Like, there have been some really difficult times, and like even right now, I would probably say, like, figuring out what we're going to do next, you know, and the direction that we're going to go in. I don't stay in these periods for long, but like, it really is a roller coaster. So whilst we'll talk about all the high points of the roller coaster where you get to see everything around, there have equally been some like lower points. And I think that's really important, because especially when I talk on lots of different podcasts, we're so guilty of talking about all the best bits, all the highlights, all the wonderful things, because that's what draws people in, because everyone's like, oh, I want to be like that. But I kind of really want to stress that, like, there are and have been some really low moments at the same time.
I think if you go into business or go into be an entrepreneur or go to do anything and don't think there's going to be low points, then possibly don't do it in the first place, because that'll bite you in the ass later. And 100%. Talking of that advice sort of thing, what would be your sort of one piece of advice for people looking to get into the events industry, or even the podcast sort of world, as it were? What would be your advice for the audience, and any age, don't worry?
To get into the industry, I genuinely think it's having a bit of like a go-getter attitude. So the people that I've worked with, I mean, it might not be the case for every single company, but like, I definitely think that someone who is kind of determined and who really enjoys learning, like, I feel like you have to be a continuous learner, because you're probably not going to step into a job in media or events and already have all the skills, especially if it's new to you, have all of the skills that you need. But you kind of have to be prepared to learn very fast on your feet and kind of give everything a go, especially with like the media landscape. It's changing so fast at this moment in time. Like, the people who are experts today are not going to be experts tomorrow if they just stay where they are and they're not learning. So I really do feel like it's kind of that. I think if you go into this industry, you have to be prepared to be a constant learner. You have to take on new ideas, learn new skills constantly. I think that's what you have to be open-minded to.
Yeah, what a brilliant way to end it. That was amazing. Wow. I'm knackered in a really good way.
God,
I'm like, what am I doing for the rest of my life? What am I doing?
No, please don't put that pressure on you. I'm asking myself the same thing.
Well, look, that was amazing. I mean, getting to know your story, I've seen you online and sort of followed the journey, but it's honestly inspiring. You've really shared some insights and ideas I think that everyone listening or watching can really resonate with. And I think that sort of deeper insight to what you're doing, especially your love for the industry and what you're doing, that really shines through. For those of you that don't know Gaby, go follow her on insert all social media channels. Have a look at Twenties Fest. I'm assuming it's next year. Go and have a look at Twenties Fest. Go and download the Talk Twenties podcast. I should. Where is it? Spotify, YouTube, all the other places.
All platforms, yeah.
All platforms. Oh, sorry, this. I'm not good at all platforms. And for those of you, watching with streaming live, you can go and watch this online, download it at your leisure. Please stay updated for the next episode. Visit my LinkedIn profile, and you can turn on notifications, and we'll remind you of future episodes, or just to stay in the know about recruitment in our industry. Gaby, before we say goodbye, any final comments from you?
No, just thank you so much for having me. I love that you have these chats every month, and I'm excited to see the future ones that come up.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. So that is a wrap for episode 12. And remember, there's enough BS in the world already. So please treat recruitment as a strategy and don't dump it on the side of the desk. Thanks.